Her hands trembled before she even stepped into the cafe, and although she forced the corners of her mouth upward, the truth flashed unmistakably in her eyes. Fear, exhaustion, and a quiet kind of sadness that no smile could ever hide. When Sarah walked in that warm autumn afternoon in Portland, Oregon, she looked like someone carrying the weight of a story she hadn't told yet, a story she wasn't sure anyone would want to hear. And across the room, as Jacob looked up from his table, he didn't see just a date walking toward him. He saw a heart trying desperately not to break in front of a stranger. If you believe in kindness, empathy, or the value of second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps the channel grow and lets us keep telling stories that matter. Sarah's steps were slow, almost hesitant, as if each one required convincing. She sat down gently, folding her hands so tightly that her knuckles paled. But even then, she kept that polite, practiced smile, one she probably used to reassure people she was just fine. Jacob noticed it immediately, because he had worn a similar smile for years after losing his younger brother in an accident. He knew the difference between a smile of joy and a smile of survival. He didn't ask questions at first. Instead, he let the quiet linger in a way that didn't demand anything of her. The cafe buzzed softly with conversations and clinking cups, but at their little table by the window, time seemed slower. Sarah glanced out once, then twice, as though searching for an escape, but something in Jacob's calm, steady presence kept her rooted in place, even if she didn't understand why. Sarah had signed up for the blind date because her friend insisted she deserved happiness again. But the truth was, Sarah didn't feel ready. She had moved to Oregon only 3 months earlier, after leaving behind a relationship that had slowly drained her confidence and her voice. Years of being told she wasn't enough lingered like a shadow. And even now, sitting across from a man she had never met, her mind whispered that she would surely say something wrong, or be something wrong at any moment. Jacob sensed her unease. He didn't push. Instead, he talked about simple things: the smell of rain on the sidewalks, his disastrous attempts to cook lasagna, the old bookstore he loved around the corner. Sarah listened, and with each small story, her shoulders seemed to loosen a little. She still didn't laugh, but the tightness in her eyes softened. She felt, for the first time in months, that she didn't need to hide. The turning point came when a waitress accidentally spilled a bit of coffee on their table. Sarah immediately jumped, apologizing repeatedly, even though she had nothing to do with it. Her eyes filled with panic so suddenly that even the waitress paused, startled. Jacob gently placed a napkin near her hand, not touching her, not intruding, just offering a quiet anchor. And in that simple gesture, something inside Sarah cracked open. She blinked hard, looked down, and whispered an apology so faint it barely existed. Jacob understood that whisper. He knew people who apologized for existing long before anyone told them to stop. And so, instead of brushing past the moment, he simply said, in his calm, steady voice, that it was okay, that accidents happen, and that she didn't need to take blame for things not hers to carry. Sarah's lips parted, and for the first time her smile faded, not into sadness, but into honesty. She told him she wasn't great at meeting new people, that she had come there trying to be sunshine when she felt more like a half-extinguished ember. She didn't give details. She didn't need to. Jacob didn't need her history to understand her heart. As they talked, something shifted in the air. The early sunset cast golden light across their table, illuminating the small ways Sarah began to return to herself, her fingers relaxing, her shoulders straightening, her gaze meeting his just a little longer each time. Jacob found himself wanting to protect that tiny spark he saw emerging, not because he wanted to fix her, but because he believed she deserved to feel safe again. Their conversation stretched past an hour, then 2. Sarah shared pieces of her life she hadn't spoken aloud in months, not the painful parts, but the ones she feared she had lost. That she used to love painting, that she loved waking up early to watch the city before it fully stirred, that she once dreamed of opening a small art studio somewhere quiet, somewhere warm, somewhere where she could hear herself think. Jacob didn't offer advice. He didn't try to steer her future. He simply listened, truly listened, in the way people do when they want to understand the soul behind the words. And in return, Sarah felt seen, genuinely, gently, for the first time in a long time. When the cafe began to dim its lights for the evening, Sarah realized she had forgotten to be afraid for nearly an hour. She hadn't worn her nervous smile. She hadn't searched the windows for escape. She had simply existed, present, unfiltered, human. And that scared her. but in a way that felt strangely hopeful. As they stood to leave, she hesitated at the doorway. She didn't know if this would become a relationship or a friendship or just a memory, but she knew something had changed. She felt lighter, as though something inside her had whispered that maybe, just maybe, she was worthy of gentle moments like this. Jacob walked her outside, letting the crisp evening air settle around them. She tucked her hair behind her ear, looked up, and for the first time that day, her smile reached her eyes. No fear, no mask, just a quiet glow of possibility. And Jacob saw it, not the old smile, not the nervous one, but a new one, small, fragile, and hopeful enough to make the moment unforgettable. If this story touched your heart even a little, please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. It helps others find these stories and reminds us all that compassion still matters. Special request: before the ending fades, please comment what part of the story moved you the most. As Sarah walked to her car, she paused midway and looked back. Jacob was still standing there, hands in his pockets, watching her with the kind of warmth people rarely find, especially on blind dates. She didn't wave. She didn't need to. Something had begun between them. Not love, not yet, but the quiet, essential beginning of healing. And sometimes, that is the most beautiful beginning of all.